Okay, we're back. I had to check out the video settings. I was getting a weird little error from OBS. Perhaps it's all cleared up now. We will soon see. Anyway, hey, Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. Super excited. I'm gonna restart that again because I will clip off. I will clip off all the starts here. I tend to do that every day, but Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. Very busy day ahead of us here. It's Thursday. We've got Rebecca in. We've got Tedgel in. We've got Kara in. Who else we got in? Katie. Oh my God, Katie with the 13 pages of user research, or not user research, competitive research. Really excellent work diving in. Just gotta give recognition where recognition is due. I absolutely love it when I see somebody really dive into the research component. I feel like that's really where the source of your that's where the source of your confidence comes from as a designer. So with that said, we had an error this morning that I wanted to touch on for just a second. Rebecca's WordPress site was not loading, and it's one of the reasons I was drilling down on it, trying to figure out, okay, is this a hosting error? Is this just something on my end? What's going on? And it took me back to a story about a prior WordPress project that I had. I got a frantic freak out note from the manager of my client. This was a rock musician, and his site was down. His site was down for like 11 hours, and I had to frantically pull over on the side of the road and figure out what was going on, because typically speaking, you'll get some sort of alert if something is wrong with your site, but most hosting providers are sheepishly quiet when something is wrong with the overall hosting. And I was on WordPress Engine when this occurred, when WordPress Engine is really stellar overall, except for this one instance. And the site that I was hosting there got caught up in a denial of service attack that was targeting the BBC. Turns out the BBC was hosting their sites on WordPress Engine as well, and because it wasn't like the denial of service attack was targeted toward my particular client, but because my particular client had hosting at the same hosting site as the BBC, everything got caught up in the middle of it. So, needless to say, I was pretty powerless. Aside from frantically trying to move my hosting somewhere else, I basically was just locked out. And that's something to look out for when if your site isn't, like, if you're hosting, like, for instance, we all have GitHub projects and pages that we've created. If those were to suddenly go down, I would encourage you to look at, ask yourself, is there an issue with the hosting? Because by and large, your pages will not break just on their own. Your projects won't break just on their own. Something typically happens where the hosting is occurring. So, and I got to be honest with you, I've had things on GitHub since 2012, never experienced an outage, and that's great, awesome work, GitHub. But I have experienced an outage on WordPress projects, and it was I got caught up in a denial of service attack. And when I saw Rebecca's page not loading this morning, I immediately went, "Uh-oh, is there an attack going on?" Because the world is crazy, and it's amazing how you will get wrapped up in issues that you have absolutely no control over. The attack that happened on the BBC was related to something that they had reported, and people took offense to it, and then suddenly, my guitarist guy is like, why is my festival website down? And like, uh, dude, I have no answers for you. So be on the lookout for those sorts of things. Let's jump in. Enough grousing about the past. We've got a number of things here to look at. I'm going to go ahead and start here with Kara. Kara's first up. We've got like all of this to go through. Kara's first up. She's got her prototype. I'm really interested in diving into this. So, like, here's her prototype, and she's, let's go to the prototype tab. Obviously, there's a lot of magic going on here. The couple things I want to point out, Kara. I know your prototype starts in the right spot. The link you want to share with your clients or your testers is over here. You want to hit that play button, and when you hit the play button, that's going to load the prototype. You want to share. You want to literally share the prototype and get this link. So I believe it. Yeah, it says link copy the clipboard at the bottom. But you want to get that link, and that's the one you want to share. But aside from that, this is loading fine, which is good. Let's see here. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go back and look at your targets for what you're going to be testing. I know you've got your wireframes here. I'm trying to figure out where we had declared what we're testing. Okay. That's just kind of a guideline. Story map. Edit it. User flows. Let's go back down here to user stories. So I'm just kind of using the user stories as a guide. Want to browse recipes. Okay, so you got existing users here. Want to order 1 day a week. Proteins. It's good to see this, but what I really need to get to, and I'm certain that we've declared this somewhere. And I'm just going to come back over here and go through. This is your wireframing exercise. No, there's no text here. I have set up account. I have sign up. I have explore plans. I have order meals. I have explore plans, menus. I'm going to use this as a guide, but you're going to definitely want to ship this over with like, can you do these things? So that I have an idea of, I have a thing that I'm trying to accomplish with your prototype. What I don't want to get into is, can you click around it? So can I click login? Yeah, I can click login. I can go back and I can click sign up and go back. And one thing I will say is like it's cool that it's so consistent and clean. And a lot of this comes from the fact that you have experience as a designer. I mean, you're not coming to this green. I know that you are coming to this not having used Figma before, but you have experience in the space as a designer. So your designs are pretty clean. And yes, these are low fidelity wireframes. So I'm gonna go through with, like, I remember one of the exercises was, can you sign up for a sample? So I'm gonna go through here and I'm kind of gonna basically use that prompt as a guide, and it seems like, oh yeah, here it is. So try a sample. So we've got try a sample. In the visual design, as you move forward, and I always say I'm going to not talk about this, but you're going to want to use some photography here to kind of walk them up. You may even need some text to kind of explain what the sample is, and that is really the piece here that try a sample of what. I'm over here on well, I can't. Yeah, I can go back like this. Um, high quality provisions at affordable prices, but I still don't quite know what it is. So I have to really come down here and begin to pick out what I'm wanting. So if I pick up, okay, so put me on Vegetarian Monday. This is something that I absolutely hate about Figma is the way that it pops you up and down, up and down, up and down in the prototype. So I'll say get samples on the way. You'll be receiving an email and shipping confirmation soon. This is where people aren't going to intuitively know to click up here to go back. This might be where I would add a button to say continue browsing or return to homepage, like just some sort of very clear navigation to add here. But I know that we can do this. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna say, how do I browse the menu? I remember that browsing the menu was a thing. So sign up for a plan, browse our menu. So I'm gonna click here, and here see, and I think this text is probably a little large, but as far as the edit or skip and select meals, as is this segmented controller here. But again, it's wireframes. Ordering made simple. The good news is it's very clear. Like, if I click here, that oh no, that actually did a little more than I was expecting it to. Let's go back. So current menu, upcoming menu, current order, upcoming order. That's weird that it changed upcoming. I think you may have a hiccup there. I wasn't expecting that to happen, and I should be able to click back and forth here. Like I should be able to go back and forth. I'm doing that with my keys, just going back and forth. But I think the language issue is more of a problem for me. So current menu, I can view that at least. I don't know if I can like what you see. I can sign up. All right, sure, I'll sign up. Set up the account. Okay, here's that. It moved just a smidge there. I'm not sure why. Okay, so select one of those. Boy, I hate that jump down Figma. Select a plan. So let's go for dinner. Let's go for 2 meals a week. I am gonna imagine that you're going to have people get mad about the bounce there. Don't read into that too much. That's a prototyping Figma issue, not a you issue. Let's select a plan. And what happened there? It says select plan, and now it says ordering made simple. That's interesting because when I select the plan, I feel like this screen should be, let's pick out some meals, or it's like the language here, like select meals for upcoming orders, like that might be what I'm looking for. So these are selected now, and I gotta be honest with you. I've selected these. I don't know what step I should take next. I know I can flip to upcoming order. Okay, so that's how you skip a week. That's interesting. I like the ability to skip the week. I can see the current order. I can see the, like, this week. It's like this week, next week. I think maybe that language is what's needed here. This week's order, next week's order, because I can't go beyond that. Like, it feels like I should be able to go beyond it if that's available. Okay, let's go to account. And I think I'm trapped. Yeah. I don't think there's anything here that's clickable. So if somebody clicks on the account page, they're going to get stuck in a box, and you're going to have to tell them to go back, which that isn't the worst thing in the world, but you don't want anybody getting stuck on any particular page. You always want them to be able to say, "Hey, Fresh Market, that'll take me back home," and that should be like an automatically get out of jail free card, just like that. So I think there's potentially a couple of issues on the language around the ordering page. There's that at one point you're on a menu page and then suddenly it switches to ordering. So I would try to adjust that. The sample page, I think once you click through, like there should be a bit of language here to explain like what is a sample. I'm trying to sample of what? Am I going to get a piece of bacon or am I going to get a meal? I don't know. I do know when I get down here to choose menu, I can choose meat or vegetarian, but I just want a little bit of language here. And language is really important in the wireframing exercise. And I'm just going to take a peek here. Yeah, again, some sort of clear, explicit button telling you return home or continue browse menu, something here to kind of give them a natural step. These were all fine and functional. Create your plan. Yeah, the create your plan I thought was really good until you got up here to the ordering. I felt like the ordering language could have been a little clearer. But overall, aside from the menu order thing was the only thing that was like, oh, why did that happen? So I would definitely look at that. I would then also fix that I fell in the hole with the account. So you want to link back to that. And I think if I'm looking here, yeah, everything leads to the account page, but nothing gets you out of it. So minor adjustments. Make sure that you have, like I had to kind of go hunting around and recalling back from memory the things that you want it to test. Make sure you have that ready to go for the people you're going to be testing with. Overall, this is really clean. Exactly what I expect from UCara. There's a couple of spots where it needs updating, but it's not anything drastic. I do like the fact that you were restrained in the amount of prototyping that you did, in that not everything is linked here, and that's what I would hope. I would hope that you wouldn't link to everything, because that could be a real pain in the butt. All right, so good job overall. Couple things to adjust. I'll leave some notes in your journal as well. That's user stories. Tejal has some questions here. So let's jump into some code. She's got questions. I am actually super excited to see this because I know that I've got to move over to VS Code. I know for a fact she's been coding away, and so have I. I've obviously let me switch off production, go back to master before I forget to do that, and then I will go check out Tejal's portfolio. All right, so let's say get status. Make sure that, Davey Award, get stash. I'm pretty sure we're fine there. So get pull, let's check status again, make sure. Okay, now we're clean. Get pull origin master. Poof. All right, here we are. Let's go ahead and go live. I'm super excited because Tejal is working with animations now, And while this is a little slow loading at the moment, mainly because she's loading all these video assets from afar, I'm really interested to see how, yeah, the animations are here. Yep, animations are here. Yep. Let's see here. And these are still playable, right? Yes, they are. Okay, we'll keep going. Oh, that's smart. I like the fact that you honed in on not only the image but where the image was. I think that's we had a very tricky problem because there's an iframe around the video making it responsive, but we couldn't quite get the image to consistently resize with the video. So Tedril made some adjustments there, which I think were smart. Little bitty things bringing in, that's much better. Yeah, I do think that like we're at the bottom, like we're now at the very bottom, and there needs to be some sort of footer, maybe with a link back to the homepage, maybe back to the top, whatever it is. There needs to be something at like some little spit of, gosh, I just hit my microphone. Some little like finish at the bottom. Right now it just like boop, and it's like close to the bottom. It doesn't feel as airy as the rest of it. Very minor though. I think overall, we've got to get in here and fix this thing. There's definitely some spacing. I want to refresh this though for just a second, because I want to try to call in. Why is that okay, so that's hanging because the video up top was still loading. That's an interesting problem because I don't want the animations having to wait for this video to load, and this video is fine. There's got to be a way to lighten that, and I'm not. It's a feature video, so I'm not really sure right away how to lighten it. And also there's still this issue, and it's like, is it okay? So the height of the hero has changed, and at 130%, like it's pushing everything around, or 130 viewport height. If we said 80, or if we came in and said 80 or 90 even, like this begins to work a lot better. And obviously at some point you've got to make it deeper, and that's like a media query thing, because right now it's clashing with the overview. So there's some spacing concerns here. There's also a top nav that this is going to need like navigation to get back to a home page, to get back to a contact page, which you don't have at the moment. So there's going to be some work that needs to be up here. So really, Tedril, I think the next step for you is a header and a footer that allows you to navigate around, and that's what you're lacking at this particular moment in time. So spacing is working fine for me. Fig caption is working here as well. Let's refresh. And so yeah, I see what you've got, but I'm loading it right here, and it's you're loading at 130%. It's probably okay, so this is probably a difference in your browser. If I had to guess, I'm on a 13-inch MacBook Pro. I would guess that you probably have a 15-inch screen. I'm imagining that this is a difference in screen size. Um, so what you're experiencing is likely due to the fact that you're viewing it on a different sized monitor. 15 inch. Okay, so that would explain the 2 inches here. Um, what's interesting is I can begin to simulate some of that by just changing the size here. So now 130%, if we refresh this, 130% of the viewport height is the height of this screen, okay, in these dimensions. So now, look at that. So it goes into the proportion of what about that published link? Sure, let's load that up. Now that works, but at that size, when I go up and I go full screen, well, my browser's really dragging here. Works okay there too. I'm gonna refresh again just to make sure. Where's that video going to land? Lands just below. So I am wondering what is the difference between these two? There's that also okay. It looked like I had shrunk the content. This is something else to keep in mind. If anybody has adjusted their actual screen display to be like 120% because they have potentially low vision, or if they go smaller for whatever reason, you're not in complete control of that. There are ways that you could hijack control of Zoom controls. I would never advise doing that because it's anti-accessibility. But just know that if somebody has adjusted their browser at all, you could be running into an issue. But I don't think that's going to be a problem here. Although there is a bit of simple math that can go into this and say, to where you can say, okay, I'm going to write a media query that's going to account for these things if the page is X size. I don't know that you've done a lot of media queries up top yet. So regardless of that, though, the animations that are coming in are strong. I want to go to the other questions that you had here. The main one is process, the vertical infographic. So as it stands right now, when we switch, I'm just going to inspect element. Okay, so we're going to come down here, and obviously this isn't going to work for mobile. I do need to spot where that's being brought in. So parallax process, and there's a div, the class of process, animate, here's the figure. So this is probably where I want to go through and find, you've named it, I believe. Gosh, there's so many tabs. Vertical.svg. So if I come back over here and I say so vertical SVG comes in, and obviously that's very tall. the there's a couple things I'd probably do here. I'd probably say 90% just to get you off the edge of those things. I'd probably say margin 0 auto. Although you can't do that. I'd have to do it on the figure. So maybe I leave this at that size. I do it on the figure instead. We'll say width 90%. Margin 0 auto. And that gives you the ability to pull this off the edges. To do this, you're obviously going to also need to adjust this process container. Actually, it's a parallax process container. Height, you just turn it off, and then it gives you the height. So that's something that's something we're going to need to adjust. So we need to adjust process container. We also need to adjust the figure inside it. We also need to adjust this image. So let's get to writing some code here. Style. Let's come down to parallax style, iterations, goals, awards, process. Here we go. So parallax process. You're going to need a media query here. And I always just copy my syntax over. So let's go back to parallax. Yeah, here we go. And let's close that curly bracket. Before we get ourselves in trouble. Here, this is really just going to be an min width of, trying to think of where this breakpoint happens. Does it happen only on phones? Does it happen before phones? Because when I refresh, let's take a look at this. Where is it? It's taking a while to load, and this is a lot of this is just the sheer number of projects that I have loading this morning. One thing I wonder about this height is, do you need it at all? Because it's not gonna. The height will be dynamic to the information that's inside of it. So I'm very curious about just turning off height altogether. And if I do that, I don't actually need this media query. If I just save it, and then we refresh this height will always work. And I think that, I really believe that's what you should be looking at, is keeping that height just driven by the image that's inside of it. So with that said, what we do need is I'm going to go into your index here, and we're going to find is it outcome? No, process. Yeah, here we go. Nope. Process. All right, so here we have process. I'm going to bring in the second image, and this is vertical, right? And now when we refresh, we're going to have these two images, like one right after another, and that's going to seem like, Chris, that's crazy. Why would I want this? And it's going to, like, giant image in the background because it's going to redraw that. that's something that you know, these images and the size of them is going to slow you down. I do think that at some point we need to begin looking at, okay, can we create this gradient in just CSS? But for right now, I just want to focus on this. I'm going to add a class, and that class is going to be no mobile. And on the other one, I'm going to add a class, and this is going to be no desk. So no mobile and no desk are going to have very specific usages that are going to be governed by a media query only. No mobile is going to say, well, actually, you know, what we can do is we can say mobile, and then we can create a media query to say mobile displays or mobile doesn't display above a certain size. So if we come over here, and you know, for this, I'm just going to go all the way to the bottom, and we're going to say at a min width of 680. So at a min width of 680, I want to say mobile display none. Okay, and what that's saying is at 680 and above, this tall display is going to go away. So it's automatically gone. But when I come down, it's going to come back. Okay, so it's there. But it will go away at, you know, right about there. It goes away. I need to do the opposite for I believe it was no desk. So no desk display none. Okay, so no desk starts out all sizes you're not going to display. So if I save, well, no, I called it no mobile. Sorry. So no mobile. Cancel. No mobile. Display none. That's going to make it go. Now we got the box, right? But down here, I need to say dot no mobile display block. And in doing that, it's going to ensure that this always shows up. But there's now a trigger, a conditional that says flip it to the other one when it's after a certain size. The other thing I want to do is I do want to put some controls around this thing. So on that figure, I'm going to say and I'll just put these on mobile. So mobile with 90%, margin 0 auto. And now with that, it should bring this in. If I save it and refresh. Nope, that's not going to work because it's that 90% is not on. It's not on the SVG. So I will say SVG mobile. This is a little more declarative. Although that is actually on. That should no. It's got to be up here on the figure. That's right. So class equals SVG mobile. And SVG mobile will move that in from the edges. So on a mobile device, let's just look at it on a mobile device rather than guessing at it. So here it is on a mobile device, and you have that space around it. SVG mobile also probably needs to be thrown into the I need to edit SVG mobile because no, yes I do, because the image is switching out inside of that container. So now I have to come in here to this and say SVG mobile, and now the width just needs to be width 100%. That way, when this is off and you switch to the other, you don't get that extra space at the edges, because I know you want that to go edge to edge. So that's how I would handle that. I'll go ahead and push that up. I want to see if there's anything else that we can quickly get to here. Few tweaks have made in the contact. What other notes? Header and footer. You need a header, you need a footer, because you're going to eventually need to identify who you are. We need to talk about what's the branding for you up in that navigation. We need to talk about what's the homepage. So we're at that spot where now we need to really start talking about branding. Let's see here. I like the way that I think the animation that you've chosen is subtle enough that it works pretty well. I worry more about the weight of that video slowing things down. So there's some investigation that I think should happen there. Is there a way to disable animations on the phone? Wasn't working. How do I make it happen? Okay, so let's take a look at this link. You've got some documentation. So we're going to come down here. So the global settings, it should be disable phone. So in that AOS init, we should be able to come over to your code. VS Code. Sorry, brain draws a blank a lot actually. So duration, disable phone. So you're loading once, you're disabling it for the phone. If we come back over and so I'm going to go into the emulator and we're going to refresh from the ground up. Great. Yeah, the player just takes forever. It's definitely the video. Yeah, that's a real problem because it's disabling it loading at all. Yeah, so we've got it to disable, but we want to disable the animation. We don't want to disable the information from showing up. So that's a problem. Let's see here. Duration. Yeah, yuck. I don't like that. Without getting in see duration. I see delay. I want to disable the animation on a phone. I don't, but I still want to see the information. Not ideal. That's what I would. That's phone instead of phone. Well, let's look at the documentation. I don't think that those quotes are going to make any difference. If anything, it may mess it up because. Oh yeah, actually, that would, of course, it's looking for a string. I think it's looking for a string, and yeah, I think you're right. So let's refresh. Good call, Tejal. It's it, when you're getting into JavaScript, and I sometimes forget that that's even JavaScript. There, it's not like a true false. Phone is not a true false. Phone is a string. And yeah, way to go. Okay, and now that works. So it's disabled. It's just automatically there. I really like the way that parallax works on the vertical graphic. By the way, it's really. Sometimes you can't really see what you were doing with the parallax, but here you really get a sense that it's there. So nice work there. The parallax works so much better on mobile, in my opinion, just because it takes up so much space. You can really see it, like it's really blue, and then it's really not blue. So yeah. So for you, obviously let's make sure that let's make sure our animations are gonna fire. Let's refresh here, because you have it loading once. So I definitely want to make sure that everything's firing. Okay, come on, Vimeo. Yikes. Okay, the animations are firing again. And I want to go into looking at buffered Vimeo loading to see if we can get that to load a little faster. That's the only thing dragging this down right now is just the Vimeo load. But yeah, I think your subtle usage of the zoom in is smart. I'm glad to see you don't like have things just moving in from all sorts of different directions. But yeah, header, footer. We've got that phone loading disabled. Your parallax is working good. We'll come back to this hover CSS thing. I have not had a chance to look at that. I do worry that adding more just exacerbates the fact that it's loading. I want it to load faster, not slower. So I would investigate Vimeo page or Vimeo. Like, is there a way to get it to load a thumbnail and then progressively load, like only the top and then later? I don't know. But that I would begin my investigation there. But header, footer, like that's the first thing. That's the thing you can go knock out. That's pretty easy. That you need to put some time around anyway. Before we go too far, I just want to give a shout out to Katie. I've already given Katie her feedback on this document. This is her. Actually, this isn't. This is her journal. This is her actual research document. And when you get in here, she's done some really smart things. First of all, while I don't explicitly say go search and find competitors, I do consider it just a point of personal preference that when I jump into a new project, I immediately go and seek out when I go in and Google who shows up as a likely competitor in this space. And she did that for meal delivery kits, for meal delivery for grocery stores and whatnot. She also really jumped in. Some of it's pretty clear that she has some experience with meal kit providers. So there's some built-in knowledge, but she also sought out companies that she's never heard of before, and her heuristic testing was verbose, to say the least. Again, when you have 13 pages of competitive research, I think it shows that you are taking this task seriously. And this is really for you. When you're doing research, it's really for you. It's really so you have confidence. You feel like you've turned over enough rocks, and there you will be sitting there. You will find yourself at a point in time in your career where you haven't done enough research. You know that, what, I just don't know the answer to that question because I haven't done enough. And this is why I scoff at the idea of a client being able to tell you, well, we don't have that in our budget for research. I can't work without the research. I can't move forward without taking time to do the research. It's not optional. It's not optional. The only designers that I feel like can do that are ones that are either willfully turning a blind eye and just saying, "Hey, I want the gig," and I get it. Sometimes there comes a point in time where you just gotta I need to cash a check, and I get it. And this is one of the things I took from Mike Montero's Design as a Job, and it's this: you never look down on somebody who's in a tight spot and they need a gig. You just don't do it. You look down when people are like, well, I gotta pay for my Pilates classes and I need to go on that ski trip to Aspen, and you look down at that point. It's like, well, you didn't really have to have the check, but you know what? When you've got kids, when you've got a mortgage to pay, and you're trying to keep your household straight, absolutely the right answer is always, I need to cash a check. And then I get it. Would you skip the research normally? The answer there is, well, no, I don't feel good about it when I have to skip the research, and that's acceptable. But our goal is always to do the research. It's to press the client to do the research because you want to do a good job for them, and you can't do a good job for them and be certain that you've done a good job for them if you haven't done the research. So, Katie, bravo, good job out of the gate. We're going to jump over here where we started with Rebecca. And Rebecca, it's funny because I went over here, and as you can see, down for everyone or just me.com, which is a great site to bookmark in case you are running into issues. The CrossFit site wasn't loading for me. And I was like, oh God, is it overloaded with WordPress plugins? What's happening? I think it was your hosting service. And it just so happens that I was coming in, and it cleared up after about 5-10 minutes. But this is the nightmare scenario when you go to show work to a client and it doesn't load. Oh crap. And it happens. So what I didn't or don't know at this point in time is, like, who is your hosting provider? Did they have an outage this morning? Have they contacted you to let you know as a paying customer? So just be on the lookout for that. There are services that have worse uptime issues than others. Uptime is the amount of time that they're consistently online. But keep a lookout for that. Anything that's below like 99% of the time that they're up is a problem, because frankly, that if you're down 4% of the time, you're bleeding money out of your eyes. People just expect their websites to be working. All right, so let's jump over here. You had a question related to, and by the way, great job. Looks like these are all functioning now. You had a question related to, although that needs to be fixed still. You had a question related to this, And I can totally see why you'd want to get rid of it, because like this is all styled up and that is clearly not. I believe that if we go to pages, and we'll go to all pages. And this, by the way, is a hosting provider. We're just in the WordPress dashboard. There's nothing loading on the screen. This is like, there's got to be something up at the hosting provider. There's like, again, this is just a WordPress dashboard. There's no assets loading. This ain't your site. This is, I mean, it's the hosting provider that's moving incredibly slow. Also, the other thing to note, if like this was you, or if this was on my end, for instance, our video wouldn't be working right now. So that we're gonna dance. Oh my God! It happened again. Look at that. So not ideal at all. And I'm going to refresh one more time. Now I'm going to come back over here to is it down? It's looking, it's looking, it's looking, it's looking, it's looking. Down. So I'm going to guess there's a hosting issue. Now, what do you do about that? First of all, I don't know who your host is. Second of all, hosting services vary greatly in price, and a lot of that is predicated on who has the most uptime. I went with WordPress Engine because they have great uptime, and I got caught in a DDO. I got caught in a denial of service attack. So this is a bit of a crapshoot, and it's always it's never your fault, but it's always your butt on the line when your hosting service has an outage, because your client's going to want answers. So my suggestion to you, Rebecca, is to seek out what's going on with the hosting, because this is twice in an hour that we've experienced an issue, and now it's back. Okay? That's not your site. We're not loading your site right now. We're loading the dashboard for your site. The dashboard for your site should just load. It's WordPress. Okay? There's not any assets loading here. So let's go to pages. Let's see if it'll work for us for a second. If it won't, we can obviously cover it later, because we do have a call. And the other thing I'll tell you, Rebecca, is if the site is having an issue right before our call, let's just bump it back. Let's not waste that session. Let's get another session on the calendar so that we can make usage of the time. Okay, so here we are. We're going to go into Home. And you'd ask how to delete it away from Elementor, and it's not an Elementor thing. This is Elementor builds inside of the shell that WordPress provides. And the shell that WordPress provides has a header and a footer, unless you come over here to Astra settings and you say disable footer bar. I'm not sure why they call it a footer bar, but they call it a footer bar. It's just a footer. I think they call it footer bar because they also have a nav bar. So we've updated that, right? Update it. Disable footer bar. When we come back over here and we refresh, this should be gone. Cross his fingers. And it gone. Okay. So that's done. Oh, that was kind of funny. The CrossFit Journal. It looks like it's like you designed it that way. All right. So that's that part. You had another question with regard to, I believe, this phone number. So this part, I believe we have to go into Elementor. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, I could have just hit edit with Elementor right there. Maybe I'll just do that. Edit. It's my WordPress dance. I hope I'm entertaining somebody. All right. So now I'm gonna go into Elementor. Gosh, what I could do it just like, because all I'm gonna do is inject some code. That's all. Although it's not really quote code. So there is a tell colon parameter that you can use to turn these things into links that work on a phone. If it would ever load. Having loading problems. I'm not going to enable safe mode at the moment. I'm just going to let that go. I still say that this is more related to your hosting provider because the entire site was down. Man, Elementor is taking a long time. I know that you had optimized some of your images. I am going to ask a question about this one and these kettlebells, like anything that's like being displayed as a large image. I kind of want to know more about it. Right for this right moment right now though, I want to come here. You have a link field here, and what we actually want to do here is we want to say tell colon, and this is where you need the plus, and I know that you included the numbers somewhere. I think that you put them in feedback loop. Yeah, everything's phone this morning. Nope. It's got to be somewhere else. Is it daily stand-up? You hid it from me today. Oh, yeah, here it is. So, O2. This thing. So you need to put that here. And what that should do is immediately, this is now a link. I'm going to hit update. What I wasn't able to find was a way that the browser determines, oh, you're in the region or out of the region. So you're going to need to drop another, like I would say, local, call now. International, call now. Like you're going to need, not local, you're going to need to have two links. But that's how you do it. This syntax right here, tell colon plus. And that should get you through. Although, I think the dashes are actually going to cause a problem. So I'm going to get rid of those. And that's how you do it. So I do want you to investigate and see what's going on with the hosting provider. Make sure that there's not a hiccup there. If you need to move, you want to move now. You don't want to move like 3 months later and then have your client like, oh my God, the hosting's down again. Can you find us a new provider? Because that's just gonna be more time out of your that's more time you're going to have to spend on this, likely uncompensated unless you have some sort of retainer with these people. So yeah, did we do it? I think we did it. I think we actually did it. Okay. So that's where I'm going to leave it at for today. For today's edition of the Feedback Loop, I am going to check really quickly to make sure. I'm going to check really quickly to make sure we're good. It looks like we are. So, ladies and gentlemen, Katie, well done. Kara, well done. Tejal, well done. Rebecca, well done. Lots of great work today in the Feedback Loop. I look forward to doing it all again tomorrow. I'll see you then. Take care.